Welcome to my journey to become a product designer. My name is Elijah Claude, and this is just the current leg of my path, which is just like me going through life, trying to accomplish it the best I can, and seeing how I can change the world, for the better. That's what I want to do here. So, what is my journey to become a product designer? Well, it was pretty much inspired by Gary Vee. Thanks, Gary. And I really just want to, well, right now I'm in a course, Flatiron part-time online course to learn UX design. Um, and I just want to, document my journey. So I'm about halfway done already. So, or at least into the course itself. So it's going to be kind of immediate res, if you will. But yeah, kind of Gary's kicking folks in the butt to document more than we talk. Document more than create, and trying to romanticize everything, stop trying to be perfect, and stop being scared of putting ourselves out there. So that's what I'm going to do. And today I'm going to just show you what I've been working on, kind of give you an introduction of what I want to do as a UX designer, as a product designer, and where I see myself going from here. All right. So I'm outside. It's pretty nice out here. Um, but so the sun is like glinting in my eyes. That's why I'm squinting. But it's really nice out here. So I wanted to sit out here while I talk. So, anyways, we're gonna get into here. I'm gonna go ahead and share my screen. I am on Zoom right now. Everybody's using Zoom nowadays, but I'm liking it. I've been using Zoom for a while, anyways. So, boom to bam. It should now be showing my screen, I believe. Okay. All right. So what do I want to do as a UX designer, right? I've done a lot before, right? I started to teach myself code. Um, I don't know a whole lot right now, but I started learning code. Not even code, just like front end design stuff like that, like front end website building stuff like that. Because everybody's like, "Oh, coding is the way to go." Um, Shoot, I never know how to introduce these things, but this is what I want to be. I like to keep this raw anyways. I'm not gonna edit any of this out. I have so much stuff I could talk about before, like what got me to coding in the first place, but that can all be found. I've been putting stuff out on the internet for a while, so that could be found if you're interested. But let's just say right now, I started learning to code in around 2015 or something like that. Just building my own websites, but I never really enjoyed coding, right? Because to me, when you code something, you don't really see what you're doing unless you're using HTML, CSS, and you can do stuff like this. This is like the only part I liked about coding. And this is my first couple websites right here. So I can even go further, I think. Was this my first one? This might have been my first one. Um, but yeah, so back in like I think it was 2015 to 2014. Um, yeah, everybody's talking about coding. Coding is so important, learn code. So I started to learn to code. Went to just looking online, how to code. You can go to sites like WH3 or whatever it's called. Shit, I forgot the. I haven't been here so long. So they have a lot of stuff nowadays, but when I was first looking, trying to show y'all what I looked at, and this is probably even irrelevant to the conversation in the first place. But I just want to show y'all that it's not super hard to start. Uh, that's not what I meant to type. Mm-mm-mm. Okay, I might have to cut this out part out because this has nothing to do. Anyways, the fact is, I started learning to code because I wanted to create magic. I've always been into magic. I used to read still do read tons of books. Read probably like thousands of fiction books back in high school. Harry Potter, all that stuff. So I always wanted to like create magic, right? And coding is like the easiest way to do that. So Let me get back out here. All right, yeah. So coding was like the easiest way to start like creating stuff. So I created, this site here. Is it sharing my screen? It's not sharing my screen. There we go. Share screen. Boom, bam. Back over here. All right. So there we go. Yeah. So I started creating this. It was pretty easy to, put it out there. Just really simple. This page doesn't even work anymore. Just really simple HTML. Really not that complicated, but it was cool to be able to create stuff like this. You know, um, so that probably took a couple months to learn just the simple stuff. But in that process, I realized, this is not other people created, things that seemed more polished than me at the time. And even though my stuff was kind of different, like I included like music and all this stuff, different effects that you would have. Um, just I like to use colors and animations and all that stuff. And that was really hard to do with coding, with my level of coding. So it was a difficult journey, but you can kind of see, all these different um, all these different failures. Oh, this is my first certain page. Yeah. Okay, I can see there's a lot of things. Oh, that one doesn't work. But there's a lot of practice I went into this, and I still haven't really gone that far. Yeah, so that's all the different, attempts I had. And this is kind of where I landed on that I really enjoyed. I eventually went to a code camp called Tech Talent South, which is pretty cool, learning Ruby on Rails and all that stuff. But that's when I started realizing that that code really may not be for me, because that Ruby on Rails is a back end language, meaning that for those that don't know code, it means like you're creating server side stuff. So if you're it's like creating databases, um, creating just back end stuff. You could look it up yourself. But I didn't really enjoy that because when you code with back end languages, you're not really seeing what you're doing until after you compile it, until after you create something that's actually visible, right? And I did not enjoy that. Throughout the entire course, I was busy like, oh, my final project is going to be a game. My final project is going to be a interactive website, something like that, you know. And that had nothing to do with Ruby on Rails really, but I was stuck on trying to create, one of my ideas that I had called Flubby, which is like a digital Play-Doh system where, you create tools online to create stuff. So this one's kind of broken. There used to be a way for you to like augment the shape. I'm not sure why it's not working anymore, but I was always interested in just making things interactive, making things really easy for people to use. Um, I was super interested in essentially making magic, right? Making the internet feel magical because it is magical in a way. Like when you look at what technology is, like the fact that we can talk to each other despite being nowhere close to each other. I don't even, if you're watching this right now, I might not even know who you are. I don't know who you are, where you are located, anything like that. But this technology is allowing you to see my face, hear my words and all that. It's just magical, right? And so I wanted to contribute or create more of that, right? And I want to make it more intentional because I feel like to this point, a lot of technology is kind of made to be functional or made to be, just to, yeah, it's really just more so functional. Of course, there are a lot of technology that is made to be, entertaining and all this other stuff, but I feel like there's not enough technology out there that really makes it feel magical. That makes it feel like, oh snap, like I'm a magician, and that's what I wanted to create. And so from the very beginning, I've always been trying to create these sorts of things, but with code, I felt very limited, so this is my kind of attempt when I discovered jQuery, which is a JavaScript kind of framework, I guess you can say. Um, and it was cool to me. I was like, oh wow, I can make stuff that's interactive. So this was going to be all my ingredients to that digital Play-Doh system that I wanted to show. And it was extremely hard. It was extremely hard, especially because Ruby is not really meant to do all of that stuff. It's more of I guess, a database type of language or something like that, whatever. But oh, the double clicking doesn't even work anymore. maybe it just might be Mac because I did this on the Windows. But this is like the closest thing I found to what I want to do. And this is I did not create this. I just copy pasted from somebody else's thing. And this was amazing. I was like, man, I want to create something like this right here, you know? Um, head back home now. But yeah, so a lot of my journey was just figuring out how to do that with code. And it was very unsuccessful. I don't know why or how, but they passed me in the class after I created this. It had almost no Ruby. Like it had no Ruby. I created a whole other framework, in terms of, oh, here's how it will save. Like I tried to spin it. I was like, when you do something, it'll save your position. It will save the things you create in the database, and that's how I try to make it relevant. But it didn't work. It didn't work. This was the only working part of my entire project after 12 weeks of being in that course. Right. This right here, and this is pretty cool, right? This is. I mean, you got your and anybody, because you can go on this site right now, still up. Anybody could just go through here, rotate, and it's just so cool. Um, but it wasn't really relevant to what I was actually learning with Ruby on Rails with backend coding. And so after that, I don't know how, but they passed me. I finished the course technically. Um, but after that, I found work at a company called EmployToy. Show you the site here. And Porto was pretty cool. I actually found it because my dad, he came out earlier. That's why I paused the video. But my dad, he just loved to talk to people, and we were at a barbecue or something like that. And he was just talking to people like he does. And he was like, "Oh, my son just finished this whole coding thing. He does that coding thing." He was like, "Oh yeah, really? I need a coding person." I was like, "All right." And they introduced themselves to me, or he introduced them to me. Um, joined the team, and this was supposed to be like an HR technology platform in which helped people find well, at first it went through several pivots, but at first it was going to be like a smart application tracking system, a really a smart HR technology platform where companies could find culture fit um, through actual measurable means. Meaning, if you're looking for diversity, it's not looking at somebody's background, somebody's skin color. It's looking at their mental diversity. How they think, what their personality is, and how that gels with your team. How they can go with your culture and all this other stuff. So I can get into that, but the point is that we were trying to create a platform, and I was Ruby on Rails. It was big, really really hot stuff back in that day, and so I was gonna I was supposed to come as a Ruby on Rails developer. Now I was honest with them. I told them I wasn't super good at Ruby. I didn't really enjoy that stuff too much, but I did have experience in like project management sort of thing, you know, and I was very open to learning, to applying that stuff, and he was open to teaching me too because he had some coding skills as well. And so I joined the team, worked for free, and until like nobody was getting paid there, so the got a little bit a percent of the company. It's a startup thing. If the startup popped off, then yeah, that would be great. And so I worked there for about a year, almost 2 years, probably around that point. But the first like month, we had like a little team of interns, about two other people that were developers. Um, and they both knew way more code than me. They were in school and all that. They were in like college. Um, Brief aside, I never went to college, by the way. I came out of high school, couldn't afford college. I got like financial aid and all that, but my parents, had some financial problems at the time, debt and all this other stuff. So that messed up my FAFSA, blah blah blah. Couldn't go to college. All right. So yeah, when I started in this, oh, another brief aside. Oh, this video is going to be really long. But when I didn't go to college, my first job was like selling knives, Cutco. It's not a scam, by the way. People say it's a scam. Maybe some of them are. How Cutco works, you basically become a sales rep, and you can actually man your own store, your own branch. And so the problem is that some people do their branches wrong, where they make you pay to get the knives, and then blah blah blah. I actually made money on that. Didn't spend any money. It just depends on what branch you're in. But anyways, the point is that was my first job, sales. And after that, I found this program called Year Up. I always suggest I like to. This is really why I want to make this aside, because Europe is a really awesome program. Um, and oh, Europe.org. But yeah, they are, professional development programs. So you go in there for a year. First 6 months is learning, about business stuff. How to get those IT skills. Well, started with IT skills and how to function in a Fortune 500 type of company, right? And then the next 6 months is actually interning at that company. So I went to this program, got in at about the skin of my teeth by luck, really, because they happened to have a raffle. They happened to have they called it Rabbit. It was like a random survey, kind of randomized sort of way of picking people. Because usually they don't pick people like me. They pick people who kind of struggle to go through college or to go to high school and stuff like that. Um, who've had those problems. And me, technically, I could get into college if I really, tried again probably and fixed up my financial aid somehow. But at that point, I was really over with college, with the idea of college, and we'll get into that probably in another video. But the point is, yeah, I went to Europe. This is what got me into like technology as well, in terms of what it could do in a professional setting. Prior to that, I only ever viewed technology as like watching movies like Back to the Future, hover cars and all, and I have a huge history with hover cars. Whole nother video. But yeah, anyways, Europe, that's where I started learning to code, because I had to build my own portfolio, and everybody else was using like Wibbly and site builders, and I wanted to do it from scratch because I wanted to do something different. But anyways, Europe. My internship was at Manheim, Fortune 500 company, and then it was this employtoy. First month, I realized that these people who actually were good at coding, they were good at coding, but they weren't really good at finishing a project. Like they kept getting stuck on certain bugs and this thing or that thing. So I kind of went up into a project management type of role, right? Where I was like, okay, guys, we need to focus on this thing, get this done at this time, that stuff. And it was pretty natural for me. And so my boss at the time saw that, and he was like, all right, you'll become the project manager. You don't have to code too much. I still did a fair amount of coding, just or at least tried to. But yeah, I kind of went into that, ended up, managing like multiple cohorts of interns. So I got me a really good experience with management and stuff like that. But during this whole process, as you can see, it's really well designed. This is real. Like this, we actually designed all this. These pictures and stuff like that. And because like my um my boss, he was not exactly a designer, but he had those design chops. He was kind of in the marketing realm, kind of in that kind of he called himself a hacker, knows some coding, knew some design and all that stuff, and applied it to his experiences and all that. He had a startup prior to this, and I learned a lot about design from him. Um, but at the time, I didn't really know it was design. I didn't really call it by that name, but it was in the works. It's a long origin story. Sorry about that. It was in the works. And so eventually after that, unfortunately, this startup didn't really take off. We had a lot of problems. The developers the professional developers we had, were kind of they kind of messed us up. And so after that, I started looking on Facebook, because it was an HR technology startup. So we often looked at, what the big players, what all the players are doing. We looked at Lever, we looked at Greenhouse, we looked at, what Google was doing at the time. They were trying to do an HR technology kind of suite, Microsoft with LinkedIn. We were really into the industry, and we saw that Facebook started doing it too. They had a job portal, and I was just, trying to do some research on how this job portal worked, and I saw this. They said a virtual reality arcade, virtual reality receptionist. I was like, hold up, hold up. Now at that time, I was not getting paid at that job. I was working for almost 2 years at the time. I was talking to the boss this whole time. I was like, I might have to find another job. I don't really have it like that. I can't be. My family was really struggling at the time. That's a whole other story. Um, but I found this, and I was like, oh, virtual reality. Now I told you I was always into like magical type of technology. I was into, fantasy books. I was also into sci-fi books. I've been into virtual reality before it was popular, like before Oculus Quest was even came out, right? I read this book called Epic Saga. and that was really cool by Connor Caustic. Um, Probably spelled his name all wrong. Yeah, there we go. So this is what got me into virtual reality right here. I read this book back in high school. Um, yeah, see, this book came out in 2004. I read it probably in like 2008, 2009, or something like that. But I was like flabbergasted by it, the idea of virtual reality after this book, and then went into a bunch of other stuff. From there, I'm big into web fictions. That's gonna be important. I'm gonna do whole other videos on web fictions, but another one that really got me into virtual reality was the game. Um, it was also Arc. It's probably not going to show up here. You know, Legendary Moonlight Saga. A lot of these. It was a There's a whole genre of VR MMORPG web fictions or lit RPGs, which are like literary fictions in which you are in a game, or maybe you're transported to a game world, or virtual reality, and all this stuff. It all falls under that genre. I was big into this, way back then, and so I was really interested in virtual reality, and so I've been. How long is this right now? Sorry, guys, but suffice to say that when I saw that you could work at they had a virtual reality arcade in my freaking city, and I didn't even know. I was like, man, I gotta jump on it, and so I started working there. Um, I still work there now. It's been 2 years, almost 3 years now. But oh man, this is a long ass story. So I really should have made a script or something. Um, but yeah, that's what got me into virtual reality even more, being able to work within virtual reality, see those games, and see where that technology was now, you know um and from there, a lot of things were coming into my mind at the time, so I was like, you know what, I want to create the metaverse. No, Snow Crash. I want to create the freaking Matrix. I want to create the Oasis, Ready Player One. I want to create, a virtual world where people can go in and create whatever reality they want to create. I want people to be able to live magical lives, right? And I don't want to do it in a escapist mentality. I want to do it in a productive mentality, in terms of being able to go into a virtual world, create what you want to create, make money off of that, bring that into the real world, and make actual, material buildings, material structures, material items and tools with that knowledge of what you created in the virtual world. Essentially, I wanted an easy way for people to go back and forth between realities, right? Because virtual realities, the internet in general, is a great way for you to simulate what is possible to simulate what anyway, for you to just see, what is really possible. Like, bring your imagination into a place where you can visualize it, and then once you visualize that, you can then put it into the real world and make our collective reality more enjoyable. And that's my goal right there. So that's why I want to become a product designer, a person who can, take an idea and turn it into a reality. And during the entire experience at ICMU VR, I started. I just I really, studied a lot of these virtual experiences and understood what made them tick. What made people enjoy these virtual spaces, or what made them confused about these virtual spaces. And I looked at, the internet, and I was like, why don't we have virtual spaces? Like, in the internet, why is it all 2D? We've had the internet for like 50 years now, and it's still kind of boring to me. Like, you see all these websites, it's 2D. Like, and mine's is kind of interesting because I got like pictures and all this stuff. But I wanted more websites that were like this, where you went to, whatever.com, Amazon.com, Nike, Facebook, whatever, and you see a virtual world. You can walk around and have landscapes in the area, you know, and this will solve a lot of problems with how people see the internet, because a lot of times people have all these weird ideas of what a website should be, how to navigate a website, what it should do, and all this stuff, because it's not natural. We've learned a lot of these uh, use cases for the internet, but it's not intuitive. It's not organic, you know? So I wanted to bring what we are used to, the 3D world into the virtual world. That's what I really, really would love to do. And yeah, just working in VR really got me more into this idea. And I want it so that, you know, we can we can create a virtual world that feels kind of like this one, like the real world in terms of its ability to establish community, establish presence. Like all of these could be different websites. Like this is a different website. This is a different website. You can actually just travel to that one and be inside that website, be inside somebody else's space, give them a visit. You know, like how amazing would that be? I think I actually added this one, added some stuff to this one, kind of broke it because like the way it takes the things. But anyways, the point is that like I wanted to create a virtual world where you know you can visit somebody's website and see their how they see the world. You know, I think it would be just so way more interesting than how we have it now. Some of these images didn't show up, but the point is like this is what I wanted to create. And when I've been trying to teach myself code, I wasn't able to do that. Mostly because I'm not really good at coding, but also because it's just not. I want to visualize what I see, you know. Um, so I was trying to figure out ways to do that, and in order to test that, I've been using this. Now, my latest version of my website looks like this: flubbyverse.com. So it's a lot more kind of streamlined. I've kind of written down on these walls my ideas, you know, and what things should look like, right? Um, go through these walls and you can see, you kind of hear see me talking about, you know, what I actually want to do and how I see these happening. And so this is what I kind of ultimately want to create, but make it way more interactive, way more social, right? And so ooh, long story. What does this have to do with design, right? The point is, I wanted to create stuff like this, right? And I couldn't do it to code. I've been trying, I've been copying and pasting basically stuff from A-Frame, which is a web VR framework. And that's the type of stuff I want to see, like the ability to go into virtual spaces without needing like a headset or some expensive, you know, hardware and stuff like that. I wanted more of that, and A-Frame was a really good way of doing that. All I had to do was like go in and copy a lot of stuff. They have a really good documentation, so I didn't even really have to learn too much code to make it happen, to make it work. And you can see that here. But to make it interactive, that used actual coding, that used JavaScript, and I just could not figure that out, right? So I've been trying to figure out how to gain more of these skills. So I was like, all right, that means I have to go back into a code camp. Oh my gosh. All right. So I started looking into code camps again and I found Career Karma. All right. So Career Karma is pretty awesome. I've been listening to their podcast for a while now. I'm huge into podcasts, and they're always talking about breaking into tech. That's their podcast actually, breaking into tech. Um, and I've been reading that for a while. Most of those stories are for people that use coding to break into tech, work at, you know, these startups and, you know, make a lot of money, be able to build projects that they want to do, make a difference in the world. That's like stuff I wanted to do. That's like, oh my gosh, that's my goals right here, right? And when I found Career Karma, they actually had a whole suite of these boot camps, right? I was like, whoa, they have a lot of boot camps. But when I saw that they didn't have just coding boot camps. They had design boot camps. They had data science. They had security. Now, at Manheim, I actually worked in cybersecurity. I was interested in doing that at one point too. But I was like, whoa, they had boot camps for a lot of stuff. And I was like, so what is design? You know, I thought it was just, you know, graphic design, you know, like drawing something, you know, all that stuff. I was like, man, I don't know if I want to do that. I'm not really artistically inclined. But I started researching into this stuff, and I was like, "Whoa!" So you telling me not only are there people who code, but there are people who design, who create the stuff for the coders to create, coders don't just create stuff out of the blue. And I learned that too when I was in coding camp. Like you usually take something that's already existing, or a list of specifications or something like that. Like you have something that you want to create, and you just coding up. You're writing up the the uh, the program to make that a reality, to make that work. But I realized through this research that there are actually people who take something from scratch, who look at a problem, who go and talk to people and be like, hey, what's your problem? What's your what what issues, what's your pain points? They actually research this stuff. They talk to people, and then they create basically designs. They create solutions to those problems, and they go back to those people and they test it. They say, hey, um does how does this feel? Does this solve your problem? Go through the app, go through the website. Does this work for you? And there's actually people who can take an idea, who can take a problem, who can take nothing and turn it into freaking something. That's magic right there. That's essentially exactly what I want to do. And so I was like, oh, I'm over here looking at my camera like I'm talking to you. I'm supposed to be looking at the freaking. I mean, I'm looking at the display and not looking at the camera. Sorry about that, y'all. But yeah, that's like it's magic. I was like, whoa, this is it. Like, this is it. And so I joined. I looked into a lot of these code camps, and again, a lot of this stuff works in the background. It's interesting how this stuff works. For a long time, I've been on Twitter listening to Lambda, the creator of Lambda School, and oh, this is actual Lambda. But Lambda School is a boot camp. May have heard of it. It's been really popular, kind of infamous, unfortunately, right now. But I followed him. He's talking about boot camps. I was like, oh, this is the way to go. You don't have to go to a 4-year degree and waste hundreds of thousands of dollars, get into debt, and all this stuff. No, you can go to a school that is specifically geared to what you want to learn, and then get a job from that. And the school does not get paid until you get paid. So their incentives are aligned with yours. And so that's like, oh my gosh, that's what I was interested in. Unfortunately, when I applied to Lambda, I didn't get in, or not. No, it didn't work for me because I'm still working at the time. Technically, I am, but it's pandemic and all that. But the but sheesh, man. Gary, I'm not sure if you had this intended for these videos, but yeah, I applied to Lambda School, but their program didn't work for me. Like they only had one part-time, schedule, and you had to go to class at this specific time. I was like, man, I gotta work, and I work all kind of weird hours. But I looked at a lot of different boot camps, and Flatiron worked for me. So Flatiron is pretty nice because um, they had multiple kind of schedules you can use, and they were very flexible. Their whole thing is that we work on your time. You can uh their part-time course was able to excuse me, y'all, burp. Their part-time course worked with was like very flexible. That's what they're built on, being flexible. I was like, oh snap, this might be it. Applied there, got in, and started their UX design course, and it was everything that I expected, and a lot more, a lot of stuff that I didn't even realize. So I started this course in September, and I graduate in July. So I'm about more than halfway through in phase three. It's cut into 5 phases, and I'm in phase three, and it's been amazing, right? I learned so much, and so what I want to do as a product designer is create these worlds. The first thing I asked them is like, can we get jobs in industries that are very new, like emerging industries like VR, AR? They was like, honestly, we don't know, but we actually have people who are in sort of related, or types of, you know, um, those types of companies, because like Magic Leap, all these types of companies, they still need UX designers. Even if you, and I asked them, I was like, can you teach me how to create, how to do UX design, but for VR and AR? It was like, not really, but still have to learn the basics. And I was like, kind of right about that. Even though 3D is a whole different type of landscape, it still uses the same principles as what the internet has been using for the last couple years, last couple decades. You know, you still need those basic principles. So I was like, all right, cool. Um, but the whole time I'm in this course, like I'm thinking about how to do what I want to do, like how to create something that's interesting. So my idea for a portfolio is to basically take my the lessons of a designer and turn that into like a 3D landscape, or at least a 2D landscape that's like isometric, or that's that looks 3D, you know. So I've been every day I've been trying to, you know, add a little bit to my own portfolio with this, but we'll go through that later in the journey. I just want to show you a little bit about all the stuff I've been working on here. So I'm going to show you my folders here. So the first thing we did, um, well, the first thing we did was learn, you know, kind of the basics of UX. But during it's that's what I love about this program. It's project based, so it's not just, you know, reading all these articles and looking at these videos and like, okay, cool. It's not like reading a textbook. You know, it's actually applying that stuff to real world settings. So the first one was creating a travel app, right? And so we actually did research. They supplied us with some usability, not usability, some user interviews they've done where they actually ask people, you know, what are, how do you travel, you know, what apps do you use, how do you use those apps, what are the problems you had with those apps, or just your experiences in general. And so from that we were able to figure out, okay, these are the major features, or these are the major things you would have to build to solve their specific problems, right? And so we created a lot of these different things. You got an app map here. And I'll go through all this stuff in my journey in the future. I just want to give you an idea of what I've been working on. You know, personas, which is like, you know, taking a bunch of different users that you've interviewed and kind of coalescing them into a prototype, a idea of what your target audience is, what their everyday life is like, what devices they use, you know, what's their frustrations, their background, their personality, you know, all that stuff. You distill it into what we call a persona. Then we have wireframes, which are like, you know, the you're like the skeleton of what your solution is, right? And you actually make this from scratch. So the first one was actually a paper prototype or paper wireframe where you actually sketch on paper, you know, what the app should look like, what you think the app should look like. And because you have no idea what the actual solution is, like there's a whole design thinking process. Again, we'll go all through all of this, you know, in my journey, next couple of days. But yeah, the first part was just, you know, learning what all that stuff was. And so this is my first app. Oh, we had style tiles too, which is like um how you call it? Style tile is essentially a way for you to understand what the app should feel like, what the feeling should give you when you use the different colors or different text, different not text, but like what do you call it? Typography, different uh just, you know, navigating through the app, what it should feel like. So you had these different, you know, kind of fields that were exploring. You had iterations is super important. Where you have one idea, like this is my first kind of iteration, my first really design of a style tile, and then they had to redo it because this was kind of crap. And this is my second version. You probably can't see it too well, but it's gonna pop up, here we go. So yeah, you can pause and look at it. Not super good anyways, but the point is, I keep saying the point is, um, it was a very interesting journey. You know, I learned a lot just in that first phase. And every phase, you kind of iterate on those lessons that you learned. So the second phase was a group project, or like, you know, group based. So the second one was based on libraries, where we tried to modernize libraries, or figure out ways to strengthen the bond between the community and the library. And we came up with an app called Dewey. By the way, Warhopper was my other name. Uh, I'll go through all this stuff in a later video to get down to details, because this is really super long. But, you know, just suffice to say, you know, each phase kind of iterated on those concepts that we learned, kind of reinforced those concepts, those basic concepts in realistic projects. And each phase we did more and more real world stuff. So in phase one, they supplied you with, the user interviews. But in phase two, we actually had to perform the user interviews ourselves. And in phase three, we had to perform the user interviews, the usability testing, surveys, all that stuff. Phase four, we're going to be working with a real client. So that's real. I'm keep looking at this place. Sorry. So yeah, that's going to be super, super interesting. But yeah, I've learned so much in my journey so far, and I'm really excited about showing you all more of that journey, sharing more of that journey, and hopefully, hopefully, taking less time to do so. So if you watched this whole video, wow, goddamn, thank you very much, and I hope this has been interesting for people. I hope this has been fun. Hope this has been um, insightful, and just yeah, do your own thing. Like if you're watching this, the reason why I want to keep this raw is because I want to show that you shouldn't be afraid to be vulnerable. You shouldn't be afraid to share what your journey is, right? All of us have really interesting stories to tell and really interesting journeys. And so, like Gary Vee said, you have to put that out there, um, because if you're over here, especially in these times, this pandemic, we're over here panicking about all these things that we can't control. But what you can control is what you're doing, how you're responding to this pandemic. And you don't have to panic. You don't have to sit in anxiety about, or sit bored, or sit here being, just feel like you're stuck. You might be quarantined, but that doesn't mean you can't create. That doesn't mean you can't share. That doesn't mean you can't connect with other human beings, you know? And so yeah, if you're watching this, I hope you're taking this as a proof positive that you can and should share your own stories as roughly and as quickly as raw as you can. Don't let polish stop you. Like these headphones, these cheap headphones I took from my job. I actually did it by accident. I was playing D&D after I was closed, and I was using this. I was like, oh snap, my bad. But I would turn it in a bit. I have my own headphones, but I think this might be better. But I'm freaking recorded this on my MacBook Air that I got from Career Karma um, for this is from like 2015, 2013, maybe. I'm recording this on the Zoom recording thing, not any type of official kind of studios equipment or anything like that. I don't know anything about video editing, so this is just gonna be raw and long as hell. But it's you got to put yourself out there, And I did another video on my phone in the rain a couple of days ago, but that was pretty short. It was only like 13 minutes, but I might release both of them. Fuck it. I was actually trying to release it, but my phone kind of like I only had like I was at 95% storage. When I shot that video at 10, and at 10 minutes my junk cut off in the middle of my conversation. I was like, oh man, I didn't even get to close it. So I had to delete some stuff and then re-record the video. And I've tried to upload that, but YouTube doesn't let you clip two videos together. So I had to download I had to figure out a video app to use to put these two clips together. But I'm using iMovie, but that doesn't work for some reason. Like it's not displaying my stuff. So I have to try, I'm gonna have to figure out how to make that work. But that's the only reason why I didn't publish that already. But I'm gonna publish this as soon as it's done, coming off of Zoom, and just whatever, right? Just let it go, you know. So yeah, if you read to this point, I mean, if you're watching to this point, just put your stuff out there, share your journey. So I'm going to do my best to share my journey every single day. No, I will share my journey every single day. Probably, or most definitely won't be as long as this one, because most days I struggle a lot with procrastination. I struggle a lot with trying to be a perfectionist. Um, and these past couple of years has been a humbling, humbling experience of just putting stuff out there and not letting procrastination or perfectionism or insecurity, she's had so much insecurity, not letting that stop you. So yeah, hope this has been fun, educational, and thanks. See you tomorrow.